whether it's morning, evening, wherever you are. I'm really grateful to be with you tonight. My name is Margaret Swift Thompson, and I am a woman in long-term recovery. My recovery started through the family side of the journey, and then I became honest about my own addiction with food. And I'm in recovery for a long time, thankfully, for both. But as we all know, recovery is not a linear journey, and recovery offers challenges at very interesting times. I think if you were to ask my family whether I would be okay in the holidays, they would be nervous about it. But they wouldn't be expecting me to be at high risk for relapse once when I got incredibly angry about something at work, you know? And I had a plan and I was going for it. And interestingly enough, a part of my recovery is not consuming alcohol. That's part of my recovery with food. And so I had a plan, and my plan included alcohol. And it has never been the thing that I turned to. I'm very grateful I used my tools, my recovery tools, and I didn't end up picking up. However, it was shocking to me that that was the most poignant time for me in my trajectory of recovery that I can recall. Many ups and downs through my life since being in recovery, and those are the ones that was the biggest, most profound one. And there have been others. And gratefully, with the help of tools and recovery communities, I haven't done that. My clinical background, I worked at Hazel and Betty Ford for 23 years. I passionately served clients in treatment in all different units. But my point that I always went back to, my sweet spot in my work, was in the family program. I absolutely have a passion. And that's why I launched Embrace Family Recovery, which is my business, to come alongside the affected loved ones, the people who love someone with the disease of addiction. And that is what I call it, because when I say that, it encompasses me as a food addict, anyone as a substance use and substance misuse, substance use disorder, or any other gambling, sex, love, whatever it may be. So that's the language I choose to use. And as a result, I wanted to offer more to families, which is part of why I'm so impressed with Caron Foundation doing this for you monthly, because we lack a lot of resources for the affected loved ones. It's just the reality. And so whatever I can do to enhance that, that's my mission for the rest of my time on this planet. I want to invite people to use the chat because I know it's being recorded. Not everybody feels comfortable sharing and vocally speaking. I love interaction. That is my jam, because then I know that I'm meeting your need rather than just sitting here speaking about something that might not be helpful to you. So in the chat, while I just move into this slide, the next slide, if you would be willing to write your first name, oh, there it is, in the chat, and where you are in the world, because I'm guessing some are not in the United States, possibly. I'm from Bermuda originally. And by the way, I'm an alumni of Caron. I was blessed and fortunate to go through the Caron Chit Chat Farm codependency program. It used to be called the Breakthrough Program. And so I am a very proud alumni of Caron Foundation and have sent many people to your facility for care on all different levels. So if you would write your first name, where you're zooming in from, and what is a stressor you identify as the holiday season comes up, because there are stressors for all of us on this journey at all different times, but holidays can be difficult on the best of circumstances and can be wonderful at the best of circumstances. When someone is in recovery or struggling with their addiction, it can be even more challenging for us as affected loved ones. So I wanted to start with this quote from Tending Dandelions, which is this meditation book that I adore. It is Tending Dandelions, Honest Meditations for Mothers with Addicted Children. And it is a mother's writings on her journey with her son, who had been out actively using despite having numerous treatment opportunities, and was struggling in the disease for a very long time, and more recently has started to engage in recovery. And Sandy Swenson, the author of that meditation book, said this, and I agree with her wholeheartedly. If a mother's love could fix addiction, the disease would have been eradicated a long time ago. I would expand that to say if a partner's love, a child's love, a father's love, a mother's love could eradicate this disease and fix it, we wouldn't have careers in the field, and I would be quite happy to find a new career. The reality is love is needed, but also what is needed is a lot of support and education about the impact of this disease on every single member of the family, and some learning around how to do that. So how do I love someone with this illness while protecting myself with boundaries from the illness when it is all wrapped up in the same person is the big challenge of each and every one of us who find ourselves on this path. Thank you, by the way, for writing in the chat. I appreciate it. So we're from Pennsylvania, Virginia. Thank you. Boston. I went to college in Boston. That's my favorite city. Jersey, Washington, VA. Look at you all. Thank you all for being here. And we will look at your triggers here in a sober house, okay? Don't want to host a big dinner. Do you get to have a choice about that, Sarah? Your trigger is caring for your aging alcoholic father. Stressors when either drink at holidays gathering. Okay, so I hear common triggers that many of us feel. So let's get into this. Let's do a little talking about triggers and so forth, and then we'll talk about some tools to help through the holidays. And then I want to get to the Q&A, which is the non-recorded part, because then we can specifically address those things that you want to talk about. The disease of addiction is a no-fault family disease. That is the belief I hold, and that is the way that I teach about this disease. The thing that was baffling to me, because I came in as a result of being the family member of someone, what was baffling to me was that when I started learning about recovery, I couldn't understand the things they were suggesting to me because they felt so intuitively wrong as a partner. Detach with love. What the heck does that mean? I was like, I don't know how to do that. I want to make them well. So I'm going to do everything I can to help them get well. And I'm going to throw myself at their identified problem and help them in any way I can. And so what I believe is so hard about this illness versus any other progressive, chronic, and potentially fatal illness that I know of is healthy support is counterintuitive to the instincts we have when we find ourselves there. So that does not mean we don't love. That does not mean we don't come alongside our person. But that means we have to be mindful as we walk this path. Am I in this behavior that I'm about to do or this action I'm about to take? Am I enhancing their recovery or fueling their disease, which in turn hurts them? Am I doing this truly because it's the healthy, supportive thing to do for them? Or am I doing this because my emotional turmoil in me is so intolerable that I need to get out of that any way possible? And the best way I've ever known to get out of that is jumping into trying to fix somebody else. Because then I feel like I have a purpose and I feel like I'm being productive. And here's the other thing. Monkey chatter, which we'll get into, which I designed and created many, many years ago to help understand the mental preoccupation and obsession of a family member. It thrives when I stay in my head trying to fix, manage, control, and worry about every single possible thing that could go wrong in the future. And so that's part of why it really feels hard to do it differently, because our bodies and our minds are screaming that we need to do it in the way that we've done it, the way that we believe we should do it. And society doesn't help us when they don't accept this as a disease, firstly. And secondly, when they have this expectation that we who love them should do A, B, and C. And if we don't, we're a bad partner, a bad parent, a bad child. We're screwing things up, or we're to blame. It's a very parallel journey that you are on. It's uncanny how parallel it is. My language is that my loved one has a drug of no choice. I have a drug of no choice. It's a walking, talking human being that I do everything around in the same way that they do everything around their drug of no choice, the alcohol, the drugs, the food, the sex, whatever it may be for them. And I'm speaking from the family side there because as a recovering addict and a family member, I wear both hats and work both recoveries because I need them both. But the parallel journey is uncanny, and I'll show you a little graphic that I think will help bring that into focus. But I say this as a family member, use the term codependent if you're comfortable with it, someone who loves someone with this disease and engages in behaviors that they believe are the healthiest for their loved one until they learn some different tools and strategies and approaches to support that's healthy. Their disease and their drug of no choice is that person. So here's what I would ask you to reflect on. Have you ever lied for them? Have you ever covered for them? Have you ever spent sleepless nights preoccupied with them? Have you ever pre-thought out the next scenario 65 different ways, being prepared so that you're ready to catch them if one of those things happens? Those are things that every person with a substance use disorder has done for their drug also. And so that's part of that parallel. Our recovery as loved ones requires being self-focused when we have been conditioned by the disease of addiction to be other-focused that fast. It's not even a conscious thought until we get into recovery and we realize that we're doing that and we learn how to do differently. A way that we can move on this path is to separate our loved one from their disease in actions, language, and every aspect of them, and ourselves from the monkey. So learning and understanding what monkey chatter is, what it's fueled by, what it creates, and how we cope with it will help us one day at a time not live in a perpetual state of reactivity, but move more into a place of responding and being able to be present and in the moment. Set healthy boundaries around the disease while loving the person, which is something I mentioned already, which can be baffling. So here's a quick image. It's complicated. I can absolutely share this with Corey if people want their own copy of it. But I took the Jellinek chart, which is a chart that we used in treatment to help a person who's recovering from a substance use disorder start looking at how the disease progressed to the bottom and the bottoms that they've experienced and how recovery brings them out. So if you look at this image here and you have the colored arch, which is progressive phase, crucial phase, chronic phase, rehabilitation phase, recovery phase, right? So that's the arch of the Jellinek curve. If you look at the inside of the curve, you have the person with a substance use disorder or an addiction. If you look at the outside of the curve, you have a loved one. So for example, drinking is bolstered with excuses. On the family side, we're likely to have increased rationalization because we love this person and we want to believe the best in them. And we struggle to see the truth of it because of the monkey chatter, the disease, and the denial and behavior of the person with the illness. A loss of interest in anything but alcohol or drugs or food. On the other side, as a family member, I have a loss of interest in life experiences because my critical thinking and my attention is all about being consumed and worried and fearful for the person I love. So we find our worlds narrow and we become more isolated. Same for the person. Work and money troubles. We see that as the disease progresses in a person. We also often see that on the family side. And one of the things that's also really traditional in both sides of the journey that is parallel is we put on a mask of I'm okay. And we put out to the world that I'm okay. And a lot of what we're doing that is not okay inside of us is done in isolation. And for many people on the outside world, it takes a while for them to realize the exact nature of everything going on. That may be true for you when it comes to your loved one and how long it took you to realize it was actually happening and understand it. And also it may take a while for you to realize the gravity of the impact on your well-being, your mental health, and your life. So when we get to trajectory upwards into recovery, I have not met a person who ended up getting help whose life was going well. They usually are there because life has become unbearable. There have been consequences, pain points, hurts, losses, medical, financial, emotional, spiritual. And so they're surrendering to do something different because what they are being told works for them by this disease is no longer working, and the evidence is hard to deny. In my humble opinion, the same is true on the family side. Many of us don't get into recovery, and I would say me included, until I was in enough emotional pain that I knew I needed more than expecting him to get well so that I would feel well. In working in a family program for decades, I saw the patterns of this in family systems. For example, I would have a partner come through the family program who would say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I came. I've learned so much. I'm going to go out and engage in my recovery." And they meant it. They meant it with everything in them. They go home, they're in the relationship, their partner is doing what they need to do. The partner relapses, struggles, and this person says, "I can't do this anymore." They choose to leave. That is everyone's individual choice. Nobody can control what another person does, nor should they. They come back to the family program a few years later with another partner who has a substance use disorder. Do you think on Match.com they say alcoholics only need apply? There's no way. But what we have been conditioned to do is live in the crisis state of this disease pattern. And so it's actually a learning curve to learn to be in a place of stability and calm and serenity when we've lived in high alert, other focused reactivity and hypervigilance. And so we see these patterns. And what I'm here saying is that does not change for us as family members because someone else gets well. Because I've also seen a parent, for example, who comes in with somebody for treatment and they're doing their journey and they're doing well. And that person suddenly is preoccupied with another family member, a child, or a parent or a partner, and starting to fix, manage, and control them because that's the way our monkey conditions us to cope. And we see this also in a family where the parents, one of them has the disease and they're raising children. My belief is the biological parents are raising them and the disease is raising them. And the disease teaches us certain skills to survive that are really, really critical until they become liabilities. And until we get the help, we will continue to do it the way we've always done it because of the way the disease manifests in our family. So that's an example. And then the parallels going up, that's the bottom. The parallels going up are attending recovery meetings, both sides of the journey, living with honesty, openness, and willingness. So finding the places we can be safe to be truly open and authentic with where we're at so we don't have to try and protect someone or hide it. Or the biggest gain recovery has afforded me is that I have a sense of integrity where I never did because I lived in a perpetual state of dishonesty, whether it be mask wearing, whether it be face first in my addiction, whether it be my behaviors behind closed doors versus in public, whether it be I was a counselor in a reputable treatment center and I was face first in my disease while I was teaching others how to get well. Those are the realities of both sides of this journey for many of us. And integrity comes back when we start being honest with ourselves, which is hard to do, and honest with people we can be safely honest with. And that's part of the journey, again, on both sides of the coin. So let's talk about triggers. We've got planning a big meal potentially. The big opinionated family, my gosh, everyone has opinions, don't they? And, you know, I'm a Bermudian by background, Bostonian by college, Midwesterner for 20 something years. I haven't lost my directness, so I tend to be a little bit in your face, and that's not always the best way to be. But one of the things I will suggest family members tell what I believe are well-intentioned people who have lots of opinions, that I'd ask them to walk in my shoes for a month and then come back to me and tell me what I need to do or not do, and that I appreciate they care. However, I'm choosing to go with the experts that I'm getting help from, the Al-Anon meetings or the CODA meetings I'm going to, and that I'm learning along with my loved one about recovery and invite them to read something that's been valuable to you or attend something that could be helpful to them to understand this disease differently. So what are triggers for you? Like a couple of examples. I call them sights, sounds, behaviors, mannerisms, smells. And it's not even while they're using, it's before the use. And I know every one of you has 10 of them, if not more, that you could identify. Children will often tell me the hardest one for them was leaving school and coming home on the school bus, not knowing what condition their loved one was going to be in. How early in the day do you think that children are starting to worry about getting on the bus to go home and what they're going to face? Smelling weed. Okay, that's a concrete one when someone's using. Go backwards. Tell me some of the ones before they use. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I find for many family members, and I also found this, I'm in my journey, the protectiveness and the outrage at how it's shoved in our faces and how insensitive people seem to be. Yeah, before they use, we have triggers. So one of them I've heard is even if someone's sober, until we manage our own emotional triggers, if they hear ice going into a glass, their emotions are up. If they hear creaking on the steps because there's been a pattern of sneaking, then I'm going out to go to Home Depot to pick something up. I'll be back in 10 minutes. The garage door closing because you don't know if that's really what they're going to do, even though they're saying they're in recovery. Here we go. When my son reduces social contact, more time in their bedroom, in the basement, writing music. Yes. Son going outside to smoke a cigarette. The door chime on the alarm. You're with me. How about phone rings if you have a specific ringtone for a specific person in your life? Even when that ringtone happens, it's like, is it going to be bad news? Good news? What have I got to do? Is it going to be okay? Is it not going to be okay? These are triggers. Listening to people argue, simply having a heated debate. Yes. Drinking and fighting, we're paired together. Absolutely. So triggers could be without alcohol, raised voices, and all of those types of things. What else? Anybody struggle with being ghosted? Do you know what I mean by ghosted? Yes. We are so conditioned by the monkey to be vigilant to sight, sounds, behaviors, mannerisms, smells, all of it, that it could be just this little twitch that they did when they were using, or ways they would move their hands. Ghosting. So ghosting would be they don't respond. You give a call, you get nothing back. You call again, nothing back. You get a text that doesn't make sense and you think, oh, shucks, that's autocorrect. But inside you're going, oh my gosh, is it really? Okay. Anyone feeling anxious just thinking about all these triggers? Anybody? Too happy and chatty. I hear that all the time. If they've been somebody who's been not happy and chatty or only happy and chatty when high or intoxicated, then they must be if they're happy and chatty. Yeah. Okay. Thumbs up. And I'm not trying to make you anxious. I want to just get to the point that you understand these things happen whether our loved one is using or not, because we have been conditioned by the monkey and the disease to behave in this way. Our job in recovery is to recognize that, and that when we are triggered, the monkey immediately kicks off and we go down where it takes us. And so when we are in holiday situations, which are high stressors, because family is wonderful, but family is challenging. Family is filled with historical landmines that we just can't deny. Not because anyone's necessarily abusive or horrible, just because we've been together for so long through so many different family processes. And so traveling and the stress of traveling, going through an airport when historically that's been a time of high use. You know, there's just lots of triggers for people in early recovery and in recovery, and there are triggers for family members, and we have to manage them. So you got the concept. I want to introduce you to Slick. So this is how I came to create Monkey Chatter. Back in the day when I was at Hazel and Betty Ford as a student, I got to hear Saul Selby, who is the gentleman in the corner, give a talk with this silly little parrot named Slick, who's pictured right here on the counter. Slick is the representation that was used at Hazelden for the disease of addiction. So what would happen is if a person, I'll use my food addiction, when I was active in my food addiction, and even since, Slick has showed up, and it's the voice in my head that will give me every excuse, justification, manipulation, con to get me to use what I believe I have to survive. So addiction is a pathological with a substance or a behavior that I supersedes every other human need I have, and I will do whatever's necessary because I believe to my toes I have to have it. So Slick is that voice. So Slick uses anything to justify the next high, the next use, to how to sneak it, how to hide it. Even when we've said, I'm not going to hide it, I'll be honest about it because we're now working hard to be sober. The disease will try and convince me not to let you know because I'm going to disappoint you, or you'll be ashamed, or you'll be angry, or right. And so the disease constantly takes us back down that hole. So Slick is the voice of the disease that is in every person's head who has the addiction and is constantly puppeteering and attempting to puppeteer them back to use because its goal in life is to have us use till we die. The hardest part about it is it sounds like us, it's using our voice. So it's really tricky to know when disease is talking and when I am thinking, when the disease is in charge and when my healthy self's in charge. And that's where meetings and recovery community is vital, because when I am speaking out loud what's going on in my head, another person with the same disease hears it that fast. Whereas a family member, because of love, cannot be that person for us. So I heard him talk about Slick, and I was like, I have that voice around my partner. I have a voice that is perpetually keeping me hyper vigilant, fixated on him or her and what they're doing and not doing. And this starts as a child for many people. So the monkey chatter is the voice in my head that will keep me other focused and in the mode of fix, manage, control. And it's as desperate to have me do that around my person with a disease as my person with the disease is desperate to keep them using. So what that means is when I say it's counterintuitive to do the recommended support steps, that's a lot of why, because we've been conditioned to do it in this other way. So let me give you a peek into monkey chatter. As I told you, I came into this disease process and understanding addiction with my ex-partner, my ex-fiance. And I was one of those people who did not see it. And when I started to have inklings that something was off, I challenged him and he would come up with whatever he came up with as a result of the disease being in charge. And I believed him because I wanted to believe in what he was telling me. And I didn't want to see the truth because of my own issues with thinking I was unlovable. And this was the only person that would be willing to marry me. So I'm going to make this work. When I found out about it, I became 150% invested because he asked for help in getting him every possible resource known to man. I got him a therapist. I got him literature. I found out about meetings. I did everything to make the house a calm, happy place. I did everything I could because I thought if I showed him I loved him, I believed him in, and I was standing by him, he would not do said behavior. The thing is what I didn't know was that he had a pathological relationship with it that superseded every other human need he had. So my love, my patience, my kindness, my desire to make life good for him wasn't going to make the difference. So we would be face to face and I would behave in a way that I trusted him. I had zero trust for him. So I was lying constantly. He would leave the apartment and it would start as soon as his foot crossed the threshold. I would hear in my head, where's he going? What's he doing? It's too early. He doesn't have to be at work yet. Why is he leaving this soon? This isn't good. You know it's not good. He's going to go to Front Street. You know he's going there. He's got to go do that. He's going to do. No, he's not. He's committed. He's doing what he needs to do to get help. Stop it. It's not going to happen today. It's going to be okay. You know what? You're crazy. Why are you believing him now? He's been lying to you for a year. You better go follow him. You better go see where he's going. I can't go follow him. If he sees me follow him, he's going to know I don't trust him. If I don't trust him, why would he even bother? I can't go follow him. I know. I'll go to the bank. I stand in the bank as a one-way glass. I can see if he's going in, and if he's going in, then I know. And then what? Yeah, you're just going to stand there? No, you're going to confront him. It's going to be a scene. It's going to be Okay, that won't work either. I can't do that. Maybe I should go to the restaurant and I should see him at lunch. I can go for lunch. No, I went twice this week. That's too much. It's too obvious. I don't know what to do. I can't go to work. I can't be okay. Meanwhile, I show up at my job and I greet you and I say, "Hi, Ron. I'm so glad you came to see me today. How can I help you?" But my monkey in my brain is still jumping around like the guy with the symbols over the Simpson head the whole time. But I'm pretending I'm fine. I'm looking at you straight in the face. I'm trying to be present for you, but my monkey chatter's going. Do you ever hear about emotional blackouts? You hear about blackouts for someone with a substance use disorder. Blackouts for us as family members. Our example would be when I'm driving down the highway in a very heavy car that could definitely hurt me or somebody else if I'm not paying attention. And I suddenly come to emotionally and realize I've missed my exit because I have been so preoccupied with the fact that my text just went off on my car from my loved one and it sounded off. And I'm immediately off to the races with the monkey. The monkey chatter is perpetual. Around the holidays, it's ramped up. Why? For both family members and people with this disease. Because we have high expectations of other people. Because family dynamics can often be trigger points. Because of unresolved grief and resentment. Because it is so challenging to switch off the monkey and switch off Slick, even if one's sober and even when we're in early recovery. Because my monkey's equal opportunity. That situation with my ex was back in 1996 and early 97. It is now 2024, and I am blessed to be married in recovery with two old adult children. And when my eldest struggled with some mental health issues, my monkey was there. When my mom started to decline with Alzheimer's, my monkey was there. And it was like, get in there and fix everything. Do anything you can to escape those emotional pains you have right now, watching someone you love suffer. Traveling, financial burdens, the pressures to get the right presents, to throw the right meal, to do the things we normally did. How do I cope with a drinking family? How do I cope if everyone's not drinking? What do I do to make sure that the cushioning around my loved one is just right so they'll be okay? Unattainable, incapable. We cannot do that for our loved ones. And so the triggers around the holidays are a lot of the same ones, but they're amplified by whatever goes on in a traditional holiday, whether it be around the culture of use or whether it be around people who are very hurt and angry and don't believe it's a disease, whether it be around the barrage of advertisements of alcohol, food, whatever it may be. And so we've got to be mindful that our monkey may be heightened. You know, we may be in strong recovery and our monkey or Slick may still surface at different times. So an example of that would be from the disease side, holidays for me, when we have repeated eating and drinking activities, a family party here, a work party here, right? A few in a row. I have a safe word with my family that no, if either of us say it, time to go. We have a safe plan. If my husband said to me, you could go to two parties and you can not do this and not do that, because I don't think that's a good idea. We want to make sure everything goes well. And I don't want you to be at risk. My rebellious addict would be like, excuse me, who do you think you are? You can't tell me what to do. Even though he's actually being supportive and loving and trying to help me, I would hear it differently if my disease was in charge. And if I didn't go to a meeting and talk it out or call my sponsor and talk it out, the likelihood that I would get reactive to him would be pretty high. However, if I say, you know what, guys, I'm really anxious about the holidays because we've got to go to Joe's house and then we've got this thing and that thing. I'd like to limit how many things I go to. So I'm going to just do two parties this Christmas and we'll have the safe word. But you go to as many as you want. That's what I feel I need to do for recovery. And that's hard too when I'm a family member because I like to plan everything out to make it go smoothly. And it's out of love and no malintent. Really know that. All of these things we're conditioned to do come from a place of love and desiring the best for the people we love. It is not malintended. It's just not healthy support. So when we get triggered, this is your brain. Do you remember the old commercials? Some of you are old enough. This is your brain on drugs. This is not what I'm talking about. But this visual helps me because I am not a neuroscientist. So all those technical terms I get lost on. But this is your brain. There's the camera. Okay. So when we're in healthy, calm, stable, emotionally in a good place, this is how our brain looks. When we are triggered, our frontal cortex, which is the front fingers, boo, goes up. And we are in survival mode. So what that means is if my trigger is to be ghosted and I'm ghosted, this is running the show. So I'm reacting and the monkey is running the show. As a person with the disease of addiction, if I am triggered and I'm using all my recovery tools when I'm not triggered, when I'm triggered, base reactivity, it's going to be a lot easier to fall into and go to what is natural for coping, which is old behavior. And so my job in early recovery and ongoing recovery is to bring that frontal cortex back online. So getting out of that flight, fight, freeze, and fawn response and coming back to the frontal executive functioning, being able to problem solve, think through, use strategies, use tools. The same as both. When it comes to the parallel process, this is the exact same thing. The monkey comes out when we're triggered. Slick is out when the person with the disease of addiction is triggered. The other thing that the monkey and slick are masterful at is putting one foot in the future, one foot in the past, and then we're very vulnerable. What I will do in person, if I'm doing this educational type of thing, I will have a person come up and be my monkey, right? And I will be in the splits. I'll have my legs way out front and way back. And what do you think I'm like? I'm probably a little wobbly. I'm a little unsteady, right? When that monkey starts pushing me and nudging me and irking me and talking to me, I just wanted to go away. I just wanted to get quiet, but I also give it a lot of weight because it's what I've lived with for so long. I latch onto it because I'm so vulnerable in that position. Our job in recovery, unlike this poor bird there, is to get both feet underneath us one day at a time, get the executive functioning online one day at a time, and to be self-focused one day at a time. And that will be counterintuitive to what the monkey is wanting us to do. And for the person with the disease is wanting the person to do. Slick will be wanting them to have one foot. There's a saying in recovery, it's crass, but I'll share it. When I'm living in my addiction, I'm living with one foot in the future, one foot in the past, and I'm peeing all over the day. Because the reality is when I have one foot in the future, I'm projecting what's coming. I'm trying to pre-plan. I'm trying to think. When I got one foot in the past, I'm in resentment, hurt, grief, pain. I'm not present. That's when those emotional blackouts happen. And I have to work on being present. So emotional regulation is bringing that back on, is how do I tame this monkey? What types of techniques, concrete techniques, can I leave you with tonight to help tame the monkey? Why I love seeing you all in the screens or having a few things in the chat is because when I do webinars, when there's no faces, it's really tough because I like to engage with people and get a sense of what you're looking for. So here are some concrete tactile things to help us with emotional regulation, getting out of the monkey. So the first one on the left, the top one, is acupressure rings. You can get them on Amazon, really inexpensive, great gifts to give your kids and grandkids. They're just a great tool. And you put it on your finger, it's quiet, and you rub it. Now, why would I recommend something like that? Because what you're doing is you're getting out of your head and into your body. And that helps us get into us and this moment. All of these techniques are how do I get out of the monkey chatter, the mental preoccupation and obsession? How do I get back into me? Toxic waste is an extremely sour candy. I don't use this one because it has sugar and I can't in recovery. But toxic waste is a candy that I would say put a few in your purse, in your pocketbook, at your desk, at your job, in your house somewhere. And if you find yourself just in one of those places where the monkey's got you going, you're living in fear, you're preoccupied, you're worried, you don't even know what's right from left, and you can't kind of get yourself into that moment, put one in your mouth. And that sourness brings you into your mouth, brings you out of your head, gives you a moment to breathe, helps you get out of reactivity and into presence and responsive. The next one over, the circles with the rainbow colors, those are just fidgets, very quiet, ball in the middle on netting. You can play with them. Again, what can you do to bring yourself to your body, out of your mind, and out of the monkey? The bottom left are yoga genies or meditation genies. They change color and they help you breathe. Breathe in for one color, hold for one color, breathe out for one color. These have shown ability to help us lower blood pressure, get back in our body, be able to be less reactive. The next one over are sensory stickers. They have a texture to them. Again, you're feeling it. I often had rocks that I would hold in my groups. I have clients hold them, soothing, be grounded with. The one on the right is a tool that I learned and taught my kids really early. And that was an outlet or a release for energy that's difficult to manage. So those are ice cubes. If you ever feel a lot of anger, a lot of anxiousness, a lot of fear, and you're just physically all tense and tightened up, go take some ice cubes, go out to your driveway if it's a concrete or pavement, and throw the ice at the ground. You get a physical release, you not hurt yourself, you don't hurt anyone else, and you don't break anything of value. But the sound is very satisfying and it feels and sounds like you're breaking china. And if you've noticed in our world, there are things called rage rooms. This is a legitimate release that people use. This is a very inexpensive way of doing it. And my kids would come home, something would have happened. He's like, Mom, we need some ice. And we'd go outside, no questions asked. And sometimes tears come, sometimes verbal stuff comes, sometimes it's just quiet. Another technique is one of you hold one end of a towel, a bath towel, the other hold the other end of the bath towel, and squeeze it and twist it in opposite directions as long as you can to physically get some of that energy out of your body without hurting anyone or yourself, without verbally hurting anyone or physically losing control emotionally. This is another visual. As you can see, I like visuals. How to use the 5, 4, 3, 2 method. So that, oops, sorry. This is a technique that's another grounding technique. I'm going back. Sorry, there you go. So it's finding a position that's comfortable. I also believe in putting bare feet on the ground and feeling that groundedness of the ground beneath you. So you realize how small you are in the big picture. And you take the time to focus on these things, 5 things I can see right now. So just look around where you are and think, could I label 5 things I can see right now? I see a giraffe. I see a butterfly. I see a picture of my kids. I see it, right? So 5 things, like just do that, right? The next one is 4 things I can touch. This smooth thing, this glass, you know, the paper, my phone, a rock, whatever it is. 3 things I can hear right now. Can you hear 3 things? I can hear my computer whirring. I can hear my pulse in my ear. Those are 2 things. But like thinking about it is part of bringing yourself into your body. 2 things you can smell. So really thinking about it. Can I smell anything right now? And you know what I could do? I could hold this glass and I could smell the clementine that's inside of it. And then 1 thing I can taste. So is there anything I can taste right now? This is a technique that is a really good grounding, emotional regulating technique. So I'm going to leave you with some tips. This is not an exhaustive list, but some tips for the holidays. first thing I want to say is my favorite slogan around recovery is keep it simple, sweetheart. The disease and the monkey complicate the bejeebas out of everything. And you are rock stars. And I do not mean that flippantly, to be sitting in the seats you're sitting in, loving the people you love, and being present and learning for yourself, as well as ways to support them. That is the greatest gift you give the person you love with this disease. There's a lot of families that won't do it. They lose out, and it's harder. But this is not an easy journey. And I respect tremendously anyone who puts their bottom in the seat and shows up into these types of things to get help. Bookend events. So before you bookend events, you got to have a community of support. So I highly recommend recovery communities. 12-step meetings are my jam. That's the way I've found recovery. Do I think Dharma recovery is not good? No. If that's your jam, go to Dharma recovery. I have no business telling anyone else how to recover. I am willing to share how I recover and what works for me. So find your community. Get yourself a sponsor or a mentor. And when I have resistance to people wanting to do that, I remind people who are successful in life. Did you do it all by yourself, or did you have people who mentored you, guided you, taught you, assisted you on the way? Most people will say, I didn't do it all myself. I did have mentors. So why would we not gift ourselves a mentor or a sponsor or somebody who can help us when it comes to this disease, which is like getting a PhD. There's a learning curve. So bookends. So one of the things that I highly recommend my family members do and my people in recovery do is bookend a high stress event. Meaning, if I've got to go to a function that is normally very difficult for me, and I'm going because I feel I can, before I go, I either hit a meeting or I call my sponsor or a fellow in the program and to talk through my strategy to cope. I had this happen the other day, and my sponsor said to me, by the way, when you're there, if you need an excuse to step away from the table, tell them your sponsor's calling and go to the bathroom and call me. I'm like, great, thank you. You know, at the end of the event, call someone. We say something in recovery a lot. Play the tape through to the end. The disease and the monkey want to take us to to a certain point and then stop us. But we've got to play the tape forward. Meaning, if we're having a thought of fixing, managing, and controlling, we can go to someone who's in this journey, on this journey, knows this journey, lives this journey, and talk to them about what we want to do and help them, have them help us figure out whether that's me thinking in my best healthy self or that is maybe the monkey manipulating me. Limit the number of parties, gatherings you go to at the holidays, i.e., protect you. Protect your well-being. Do what you're capable of doing. Do not do what you think someone else thinks you need to do. Then you get resentful, and then it can be much riskier for you. No thank you is a complete sentence. One of the things that many of us do is over-explain when we have no need to do that. It's not rude. It's very polite, but no thank you is a complete sentence. And if they pursue it, I appreciate your passion. Thank you for your invitation. I'm not up to it right now. And move on. Hit a meeting. Holiday meetings are so special because many people are struggling and you get to be of service. Be with people who need support in our own recovery meetings helps us stay out of our head and where the disease and the monkey want to take us. Be of service. If you're going to a gathering and you know it's going to be tough, be of service. So one of the things I'm really good at is doing dishes, clearing the table, hanging out with the kids and keeping them busy when mom or dad's trying to eat. Like I find things that I can do that make me feel of value and useful and service-minded so that I'm not in the fray of whatever my disease or monkey want me to be in. It also keeps me out of being hypervigilant if I'm with somebody I'm worrying about. One of the things that I did not understand is a feeling is just a feeling and it will pass, because when I was not in recovery with either codependency or food addiction, I seriously thought I couldn't survive a bad feeling, a painful feeling. I wouldn't make it through it. And so the self-medication was a survival mechanism, whether it be being other focused and jumping into managing their life, or whether it be eating enough food to be numb. Narc on your monkey. When you start hearing the monkey chatter and you start feeling that feeling that we get, call someone or talk to someone and tell them the truth that you're hearing and what you're hearing in your head, because it diffuses the power of it. If I have a craving to use and I stay in the craving and I say nothing to anyone and I don't use recovery tools, the craving will get so potent that I will follow it. But if I call someone and I say, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. I want so badly to do this, 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 and this, they will say to me, okay, I can relate. I've had those thoughts. What would happen if you did it, Margaret? And I'd be like, what do you mean? What would happen if you did it? So that's around the addiction side. Around the family side, if I'm sitting here and I'm worried about my kid and I want so badly to call because I need to hear their voice because then I can be calm, I'm using them to make me feel better. And that's not going to help me or them. It is not their job to make me feel better. It's their job to get them healthier. And so how about instead of picking up the phone and calling them, I pick up the phone and call someone in recovery, my community, and talk through what I am feeling, what I'm going through, what my mind is telling me to do, and what's in my best interests. Because usually if I do what's in my best interest for recovery, I'm doing what is the healthiest thing I can do for the person I love. Take abstinent food, non-alcoholic beverages to a party, provide those at your home so there are options. I had a father once stand up in the family program and say, well, holidays are going to be no problem because I have ordained that they will all be alcohol and drug free. Nobody can use, nobody can bring it, nobody can have it. It is going to be great. Wow. Okay. So then I said to him, have you had this conversation with your person? Have they asked you to do this? Well, no. I know the disease of addiction is rebellious in nature. And I know that if a person is not doing well in their recovery, that rebellious attitude will kick up fast. There is nothing wrong with coming alongside someone in recovery. If they ask you to do something, for example, of not have alcohol, and you're willing to do that, beautiful. But for you to be the one to say that's what's going to happen is setting up a lot of responsibility on you for the outcome, and the disease will blame you if it goes one way or the other. And it doesn't give the person you love, who's an adult, the autonomy to make their recovery their plan. I always say to family members, get yourself out of being the ammunition that the disease uses against your person, i.e., don't be their cop, don't be their probation officer, don't be their counselor, don't be their planner, don't be their higher power. Be their mother, father, spouse, child, and allow them to use their recovery tools that are plentiful if they use them, and get involved in your own recovery communities. One event at a time, one day at a time, one meal at a time, one event at a time makes things more manageable. And I'm all about what can I do to keep it simple and make life more manageable, because my brain doesn't know what to do with calm or serene. It does today, but it didn't. And it will make things chaotic. And the analogy I always use for anyone who wonders about the impact of this disease on them, if you watch a movie like Saving Private Ryan or one of those military movies, when you're in the movie and you feel like you're at war, I did anyway. And I was like, I came out of there and I was like all heightened alert, and I'm looking around and I'm like ready to fight. Does anyone recognize ever feeling that in a military movie? To me, that's what we feel like in this family disease 24/7. And our job is to slowly walk away from the cliff edge of the worry of the what ifs, because we don't have the control to make them not happen or make them happen. and do what we can to get healthy. It's the old analogy, put on your own life, your face mask, your breathing mask first, and then help people around you. When I ask family members what you hear on a plane, they say to me, put on your own first. And they stop there. And that's true. Put on your own first. And then you can help others. It doesn't say you don't help others. It says you've got to take care of you first, and then you're healthier to help them. The biggest gift I give my children, my spouse, my family, my clients is putting my mask on, working my program, doing what I need to do one day at a time, because then I'm going to be much more able to make sound choices and healthy decisions when someone I love is in crisis. So if you'd be willing, this is my favorite version of the Serenity Prayer. It's the alternate one. I have it all over the place, and I love it because I think it's the one that we can all remember and work towards. If you would share, say it with me, and then if it's okay, we can open up with questions. Higher power, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know it's me. And with that, I do have a little video I can show if it's quiet and people don't have conversations, but I think probably people have questions or comments, and I would love to take them if that's okay, Corey.
Sure, I'm going to stop the recording.